Let's talk about the business of the day as it relates to theater with your hosts, Darnell Radford and Mitch Weiss. This is The Business of Theater, a working title. Mitch, I know we're trying to work on this, but we are not naming the podcast The Business of Theater 100,000 Seats. We can't name it.
My mother thought it should be named after you. And I just went, I don't know if enough people yet know your name. So we may have to still think about it a little longer. I don't see you complaining.
Well, my other rejected titles.
You got?
No, I mean, I would be very happy to have the Radford Theater or just the Darnell.
The Darnell.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Darnell.
I think that works.
And they'll be spelling it wrong everywhere, of course.
Of course.
You have to get to the theater to realize that, oh, there's an E.
By the way,
the
what else are they spelling wrong? You know the difference between theater ER and theater RE? Aha.
Yes, I know. It's kind of interesting. I mean, the way I used to look at it is if you're talking about the entity, the industry, the major, then it was RE. But if it's a physical structure, it's ER.
Nope.
But it's technically American versus...
You got it back.
What
you
is
got it backwards. First of all, in London, it's all RE.
I was backwards?
Yeah. In London, it's all RE.
Yeah, in London, it's RE.
The physical theaters on Broadway, off-Broadway are all RE. They're named the Schubert Theater, etc., etc.
Really?
Now, the one exception is, by the way...
I guess I did have it backwards.
Joe Papp at the Public Theater, which is ER, and it's one of the few theaters with an ER. Mm-hmm. Long time ago when he was running the place, when it was his place, we were told in the first day of employment, if you spell it RE, the Public Theater RE, you're fired. So learn it now. The Public Theater is ER because Joe Papp likes it that way. There's no other reason. And so I grew up thinking that the theater in general in America is ER. The physical theater is RE. And you'll notice in my book.
Merriam-Webster.
Yeah,
Merriam-Webster says the definition of theater spelled ER is a building or area for dramatic performances.
Well, now we have conflict. I'm telling you, though.
I know.
I would not go against Joe Papp ever. I do not want a lightning bolt to come down and strike me dead.
Oh no, I will take Joe Papp.
And the fact that all the Broadway
this is the business of theater,
okay,
a working title.
And theater.
Come on,
the business of theater ER. By the way,
love to talk over each other in here.
You notice the title of ER.
This is the business of theater ER, a working title. I'm Darnell Radford.
I'm Mitch Weiss.
Come on.
What?
Yes. Let's get down to business.
Yes. There's business.
Yes.
So what's on your mind?
It would be interesting to talk. I thought it'd be interesting to talk about the lengths producers go to get butts in seats.
Oh Lord. Most of them, by the way,
and especially now with the pandemic.
Right. Well, most of them. I'm going to go right for this. Have some very creative thoughts. They hire marketing directors in addition to press agents, in addition to ad agencies. They just keep adding to the list. And I'm going to put a number of 95% of all their ideas fail. So it is a great topic. I will go so far as one example. A long time ago, there was a play called... oh, Lord, it was about a therapist. Oh, and I will remember the name at another point. This was back in the 80s. And they said, ooh, let's do a direct mail to all the psychiatrists and psychologists in New York City and tell them there's a comedy about, oh, it's called Beyond Therapy. That's the name of the play. There you go. And this play is hysterical, and you should come see it.
Durang?
Yep. And no one showed up. What they discovered was people, when they leave their profession, don't want to go back to see it. And so the common sense approach did not work. Then you have people like David Merrick who will build statues in Central Park that are illegal just to get the police there so it makes the front page of the news, so that a show that shouldn't get an audience because it got terrible reviews all of a sudden now is on the front page, and for a few more weeks it'll make some money. So those are two very diverse examples. Hits are hits, by the way. Word of mouth, that's the best way to do it. That takes some time, though, which means you have to have money in the bank to get there. Television commercials take at least 3 weeks to have an effect. So if your show is dying and you say, I need bodies in the seats now, a TV commercial spending $100,000 on it will not solve your problem. All right, moving right along.
I love well, I love the curtain speeches for regional theater. If you like what you see, tell your friends. If you don't like what you see, tell your enemies. Word of mouth is our best form of advertising. Because, okay, so if word of mouth is our best form of advertising, why are we paying so much in marketing dollars?
That's an excellent question. Do you have an answer?
I don't. It's more rhetorical and sort of a snapback. It's like
I'm with you 100%.
Stop telling me that word of mouth is our best form of advertising if you're still clamoring for the line that you can pull from a review.
Right. Yep.
There should be 6 people outside of your theater, just busybodies talking about the show inside. Have you heard? Oh my God. And that one scene, and they did that other thing. Oh my God. Oh.
That's assuming anyone's walking by your theater, right? That's the other.
I just think that would be fun.
Okay.
I think we should set up several tables outside of theaters. Maybe do this regionally. Several theaters outside of tables with, a variety of theater people sipping tea, just talking about the show.
Actually, I don't think that's a bad idea. The trick is to think outside the box, because there are certain things you obviously have to do. There are places where you have to advertise so people know you even exist. But those are the basics.
Yeah.
Right. So beyond that,
I know. I know the mindset of word of mouth is our best form of advertising. The marketing is to get out to the region, to get out to the people who you can't, talk to directly just yet. Somebody has to come see it, and then they have to come tell people that they saw it. And I think about it like when I'm on social media, I often do post a graphic of the playbill that I've seen, that I'm seeing, and I'll say tonight's experience or today's experience, and then there's always one person that goes, "I was thinking about going. How is it?"
That's it.
What am I going to say? Go see the show. Buy 4 tickets. Find 3 other people to come. Go see it. I'm never going to tell you not to go see it. We need butts in seats.
But take it a step further. My parents' friends used to call me after they saw a show and say, "What did I think of it?" I said, "Huh? You're asking me to tell you what you thought?" Well, I kind of had a feeling, but I wanted to hear what you had to say, so I didn't sound stupid when I was talking to everybody about it. I said, "Well, what do you think?" "Oh, I thought it was enjoyable."
Your opinion is very
That's
valid.
It. Absolutely.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah, and the thing is, sometimes I can't really tell you what I thought about it. I can tell you about the show, and by telling you about the show, I'm sort of refining my overall experience. And I have noticed that, in my conversations. I'm like, I should tell more people about this because I'm getting to the root of what I enjoyed or what stuck with me about the show the more I talk about it. And so I've seen the value in that. I've definitely experienced that. So I love the places that I work, because there's always, them, when I'm on the IT side, it's not directly
mhm.
cultural, but there are theater people who are in that space, and the conversations I'll have with them, they do tend to be motivating because this isn't really the space for it. So for us to have the conversation, it's like, oh, okay. Well, I was like, and then I'll say, you know, yeah, go see it and then let me know what you think.
Well, yeah,
Which is so funny because as much as I don't like hearing it, I would say it as well.
and yet I'm the one I want to hear. Just tell me point blank, was it worth going to for you? I know it's not going to be the same for everyone, but that much when I have so
Mm.
much choice here in New York, it's like I just don't want to spend that much money on something that isn't going to be my taste, right? And if someone says,
Yes,
"Oh my
yes.
God, that was just a silly piece of crap," well, I want to know that before I spend money, right? So I disagree with you. I would like you to say,
Yes.
and by the way, it was really good. That's a great recommendation. But I understand your position.
Well, I want to tell you about another social media interaction I
Mm-hmm.
had today. I'm not going to name names, but you know who you are. So we were looking at the post. The music band announces
Oh.
$76 standing room tickets. So my comment is, greed is real.
Mm-hmm.
And and someone else said, it's too bad it's not 15 trombones. And it just took me until now to get that.
Well, they could have done $7.60,
Because yes.
right? Yeah. And just
Yeah.
giving a little history, um, that when 20 years ago, standing room tickets were about $15 to $20 each. That's not last minute buying, although standing room is only sold when the rest of the house is sold out. The box office will not sell it to you in New York unless the house is sold
Mm,
out. So it's toward the end, but you can go right to the box office and say, "Do you have any
yeah.
standing room?" Then Beautiful, the Carole King musical. When I went there, saying, "Okay, yeah, I'm not in love with the idea of seeing this, but I'd like to see it." How much is standing room? They told me it was 35, and I went, "Oh, that's a hike." But I'm not going to do that. I'll find
Hmm.
another way. Then, of course, Hamilton, which was amazing, had their standing room was $40, but it was almost impossible to get.
Was
Yeah,
it?
it was 40.
I've heard mixed stories
Oh,
about
about
Hamilton.
Hamilton, yeah. Here you are with the biggest hit of the decade, and they were charging 40.
I'm on the fence about it. I'm not sure if I want to buy
Well,
Hamilton
do you want to
tickets.
stand for 3 hours? That's the other question. Um, but so to go from 40 to
Well,
76,
I
uh uh, uh. Yeah, I'm sorry.
well, it's a tie to 76
Of
trombones, of
course,
course.
but who
Yeah,
cares?
yes. But for
Who
76,
cares?
can I get nosebleed tickets? Like shouldn't the last row in the upper balcony or whatever that top tier is? Shouldn't those tickets be
No, they
$76?
should only be 40 also. Yeah. And they have been in
Hmm.
other shows. This is, I mean, we shouldn't talk about them. I don't want to give them any more publicity for their ill chosen decision.
I will tell you that our rejected titles were standing room. Our rejected titles were standing room only and TEDxBroadway.
It's like Joan Rivers when
We just can't use them.
Joan Rivers had a
As in
suggested.
what?
Joan Rivers had a suggested title. She had a flop Broadway show, and she went out to the press afterwards after it closed and said, "It's all right. I figured out my next Broadway show. It's going to be called Neil Simon's biggest hit comedy." And that was her idea. You just put it on the marquee, even though it's not, and I'll sell tickets by somebody else's name. So that's another marketing tool. There you go. By the way, wait, one other little trick.
So
hold on. There was a show in the Booth Theater on Broadway. Chorus Line was in the Schubert, and if you go on Schubert Alley, next to it is the Booth Theater. There was a show there to remain nameless for a minute. It did not get great reviews, and it was not selling. The producer took out an ad in the New York Times that said the best show next to a chorus line. And he, for 2 weeks, the New York Times was right next door. And for 2 weeks, he was able to get away with that ad. I tell you, people got cojones, They really do. And producers will do whatever they have to do to make their money. I love it. Anyway, so how much would you have charged for standing room on Music Man, Darnell?
Well, I would have said, I'm just happy with a sold out show and just be done with it. And just say, like, okay, so remember when we were in the, so at NYU, Mitch taught a class, The Business of Broadway. And one of the classes, we got to visit a Broadway house. And we went to the Richard Rodgers Theater. And we spoke with the company manager.
Brig Bernie.
Yeah. Right? Is it Bernie?
Yeah.
Yes. And yes. And we were asking, what is your day like? Because Hamilton is a juggernaut. Like it's sold out. So like, what are you doing? And he said something about, he's really only in the building like 30 minutes after the show starts because everything is done. I mean, everything is sold.
But he's not.
Isn't it much easier to know?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say his job.
Come on, I can't edit these pregnant pauses.
His job isn't to sell tickets. That's the box office and the marketing people. So yes. He's working 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. on that show because it's sold out. It creates its own monster amount of paperwork. And between the investors that have to be kept abreast and paid, and all the staff and actors that have to be paid, and the bills that have to be paid, and the marketing decisions that have to be made, that's what Brig is doing. But he doesn't have to physically be in the theater at the box office because there's nothing to sell. Is that okay?
But I mean in terms of like... Yes. But I mean in terms of like, reconciling and figuring things out, everything is sold. So there isn't a whole lot to worry about. Like, I think it would... If you're sold out, you should be happy with a sold out show. And all right, everybody, we're packing up. This box office closes 30 seconds after curtain because there's no need to be. I don't know. I'm just saying. If this is your goal to get 100% at capacity, and if you're at capacity, then what are you worried about?
And that's it.
Why are you concerned?
You're not.
This show is going to be able to run longer because.
Right.
Because, people want to see it. And, I suggest you not underestimate the staggering drawing power of the Music Man and book in advance.
Or if you want to
I'm
offer,
just
if
saying,
you want to add
standing
seats,
room.
if you want to add seats, by in the sense of adding standing room, if you're saying, hey, we can let some more people in here because there's such demand, and you're during Tony season, then be reasonable. You don't need the bucks, right? And make it affordable, since
Yes, you're
someone
really
who's
just creating
78 years
opportunity.
old with a bad knee is not going to be able to stand. And aren't these the people you're trying to help get in to see wonderful theater,
Yeah.
right? But let's
And
talk
I can
about
imagine that there's
non-Broadway.
too much.
I'm sorry. Let's get to smaller theaters. How do they sell tickets? What are you laughing about?
Yes. Okay. I'm I'm laughing that we just have so much to say. We're just jumping all
We have to.
over
We have
each
to, because if
other.
not,
Yes, I
I'm going
like
to get
that.
angry
I
about
like
what's
it.
going
Yes.
on Broadway
Okay.
right now. You don't want me to get angry. So let's move
I
on.
know there's a whole lot
We can
we
talk
can't talk
about it. We
about.
just shouldn't.
Okay, so let's just say, all right, so let's say we're in a let's see, I don't know, 90 seat house.
Oh, okay, really small. We're going to
I
the
don't know. What do you think
extreme.
is a good?
Yeah, well, the limit
Well,
New York.
let's go up.
Let's do the
Let's.
union breakdown. Broadway starts at 500 seats. Off Broadway is under 500 seats, but over 100 seats. And then off Broadway is under
Hmm.
100 seats. And there's an in between the 100 to 199, which has a scale union rules in certain cases. So pick them. Which one you want to talk about?
Yeah. So if you had a 99 seat house, right? Would you sell 90 tickets and leave 9 open?
I would, and every theater, by the way, does this. I would leave at least 4 seats open to the last minute,
Yeah.
because you don't know what emergencies
Mm-hmm.
you have, including, not in a 99 seat house perhaps, but the president may decide to come. There may be Secret Service that need extra tickets. Somebody's chair broke just before the
Mm-hmm.
show and you need to move them. You still want to sell everything by the time you get to
Hmm.
curtain. By 8 o'clock curtain call, that everyone's
Yeah.
seated, you want every seat sold. That's what your box office, your talented box office, knows how to do. How do we hold on to what's called emergencies, but have people lined up ready to buy them in case we don't need them for an emergency? And they're real good at it.
Yeah.
So even a 99 seat
And
house.
then if you're regional, you want to have seats for your ushers. Thank you so much.
Oh, you can put some chairs in the back.
Thank you so much for your service.
Well, if they're working for free.
Here's a seat in the nosebleeds.
Or you can, or
Okay.
God forbid, you pay your
So
ushers.
if you're trying to fill that
Go ahead. We're talking over each other.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so you're trying to fill. It's okay. You're trying to fill your 90 seats,
Mm-hmm.
and we're, for all intents and purposes, coming out of a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
The show starts at 8. What time do you start panicking?
2 weeks ahead.
What time do you start
2 weeks
panicking?
ahead.
Let's just assume. Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay, your advanced sales. I mean, kind of when your advanced sales are cut off like 2 hours before the show, I guess. What else can you do? What else can you do to get more tickets sold? You just hope for the best?
Well, it does come down, if possible, and I'm not saying it is, but I think it does come down to planning. It's all, you don't say, oh, we're taking our risk. Hopefully people will show up. And that means you have to have a strategy. And the strategy can go wrong. Absolutely,
Yeah.
got that. But if you don't have any strategy, if you Are you a theater that's going to want a subscription base? Well, how do you get subscribers to a 90-seat theater? Why would they want to be there? What prices are you going to offer? You and I talked about offering free seats to everyone and just asking for a donation out. It depends what your show is. If your show is something that isn't going to sell on its own, that may be a strategy. Let's bring everyone in with free tickets, or tell the cast, bring in all your friends for free, and then you ask them on the way out, please, if you like the show, throw a few bucks in. That's one strategy. The other is over years, build a subscription base. Therefore, you have X number of seats pre-sold. And then after that, you gotta have that table outside with those people saying, "Oh, it was a wonderful show." And exactly like you said. And
it was a hoot.
You got to send them.
Send
them to restaurants.
I was full of chuckles.
You send them to restaurants saying, as you walk past people with lots of money, "Oh, the only show I tell people to go see is," as they walk by. That's I'm joking, of course.
I just walk around. Anyone is going to this show. Oh my God, it's so great. What was that you're talking about? Oh, it's this show. It's amazing. Give me a second. It's this show. It's a whole thing. Hold on, I have programs. I have I'm a mess.
Yeah, that's what you're showing me.
I'm totally fine.
But see, the other thing related to that is word of mouth doesn't work immediately. So, again, what you're talking about, last minute, that's not a strategy. You said people on the table, it's going to take sometimes weeks. So how do you budget for losses while you're waiting for word of mouth to work? That's a strategy and a marketing tool.
Yes.
So
let me ask you another thing. Okay. This hypothetical 90 seat, 90 seats. It's 99 seats. We're selling 90 seats. Okay. What is the budget that doesn't freak you out? Like, does it, is it safe to say, okay, I'm budgeting for 45 seats?
Oh.
Or am I budgeting for 70 seats?
Your key.
How do you save yourself from not freaking out?
Your key word in that was that you don't freak. Okay, because there are different answers to it. The standard that I was raised on was you budget everything for a 60 to 65% audience. The problem is that has lowered now because time has changed. Shows used to not cost so much. So now, in order not to freak, I budget a show at 50%. But I know in the offerings that were given to investors, they usually use 60 to 65% to say, at that rate, you will be paid back in a year or 2 years, or in the case of a big musical, 5-6 years. And then if the show sells out, then of course you get a hit, right? You get to give them back their money earlier. But if you're talking about a nonprofit regional, personally, since you're nonprofit and you're allowed to beg for money and donations, I think what you do is you make your financial strategy first, which is easy for me to say when we're coming out of a pandemic. But see, here's my problem. That's what they should have used the pandemic for. We have now 1 year, 2 years, 2.5 years. What's our strategy for coming out of this with money in the bank to cover losses? And what kind of work are we doing that we think the audiences need to see, that they're going to want to see? And I don't mean another big musical. What is our purpose? And unfortunately, the people that I've spoken to in regional theaters did not spend any of their time talking about these issues. So let me throw it back at you, Darnell. What number do you think is right for a 90-seat house to budget at?
Oh, well, I mean, I was never trying to sell 90 seats. If I had a, let's see, I was using black box spaces,
Mm-hmm.
right? Uh, I think it was 52 seats. I think I had 52 seats. So I would take away 7 seats and have 45.
Okay.
45 seats. And then I would try, yeah, I would think 50% was a
Mm-hmm.
goal. And I guess it also depends on how long your run is
Absolutely.
as well.
And if
Thinking
if
about
you're
that
trying to make your money back, or
because
whether you're
it
okay losing money, nonprofits traditionally lose
yes.
money,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah, I mean ultimately at least my thought starting out was if I can walk away with money to put into the next show, I think this is a success.
nice. That's it's a
That's
valid
when I
it's a
started.
valid consideration. You know,
That
yeah.
that was my thought starting out at the beginning, but I was also doing a lot of bartering, and yeah, I was doing a lot of
Hmm.
bartering. I was thinking about like you know, hey, we love your coffee shop. If if you could, getting ads and
Right.
things like that.
The only
but uh but that was my thought at first, and I wasn't thinking aggressively about
Well,
it.
also the thing, and it's easier for someone as they get older to look back, because I did the same thing you did when I was younger, but now I would go, but then I wasn't able to concentrate on the play, on the production, on the quality of what I was putting out
Hmm.
there. I'm spending all of my time worrying about ads in a program, or are the seats clean? And
Yeah.
we're multitasking. We're
Hmm.
playing multiple roles because we can't afford to hire people to do the job. And by the way, interns can only
Yeah.
go so far because they're waiting to learn what to do. So you end up still teaching them what needs to be done. And by the way, they're not
Yes.
supposed to be taken advantage of, right? And then they need a seat to watch it, and blah blah blah. Basically, you need a rich relative or somebody who believes in you so much that they're willing to give you enough money,
This dreaded rich relative.
or just somebody who believes in what you're trying to do. That's hard to do.
Can you imagine?
No, what?
Can you imagine sitting in a classroom? Can you imagine sitting in a classroom asking students what is your career goal in
Mm-hmm.
life? I want to be the rich relative.
You
I want to be the person that my family
so
comes
you're
to when they
laughing.
need a
You're
quick infusion of
laughing.
cash.
I now believe that. I wish I was the rich relative to help other people. And the investors that I know personally as acquaintances or friends who have that kind of money, they don't really expect they're making their money back. They are doing this for all different reasons.
Yeah.
And it's usually ego that they can say, I'm the one responsible for this. Sometimes they're creative minded and they hated the
Yeah.
job they actually did. Sometimes they're crazy. you know, um, I wish I understood it. I just haven't had enough money to be them. Oh, right? Would you do it if you had the
Yeah.
money? Wouldn't you? I don't mean everything, but wouldn't
If
you put some money to help a floundering theater that you believed in?
if I had the money, if I had the resources to invest in
Hmm.
great ideas,
Yeah,
yes, I
that's it.
would.
But and they're not all great
And I've said
ideas.
it before. I would love to. Yes, but I would love to lay the infrastructure to allow for those ideas to at least attempt to flourish. Like if I could sit and talk, if I would, let's say I was talking to a producer who is trying to figure out its next move or something. And all of this sounds like they have a well thought out plan. They just don't have the resources. Like I've already said before, if I had the means, that I would secure a small venues, and I would secure small spaces that could become venues, because we don't necessarily need to fill hundreds of seats. We just need to fill seats. So if we could have, a nice lighting grid, good sound system, good space to build a set, height ideally, good height, not necessarily for a fly system, but just good height,
And right.
so that we could do risers if we needed to without it being too much of a problem. I think just a bunch of boxes, like a couple that we have here, um, here in Philadelphia. I think those are great spaces because they allow for a lot of flexibility and a lot of potential. And I just think, if it was possible to secure more spaces like that. Like every time I see an old garage, I'm just like, this could work. This could be a nice 50-seat house.
In the days, I'd say about 30, 40 years ago, New York actually had 227 available small spaces for people to rent. Some of them were construction sites, places that were going to be knocked down, but they weren't knocked down yet. And these people would say, "Hey, give me $100. There's a stage in here or a floor area, and we've got some chairs, and it's not unsafe to walk in." And people would go in there and they put on shows. It's those kind of shows are not for an audience per se. It doesn't mean you don't want an audience. They're to find out whether or not you've got something worth the art or worth the entertainment, or to hone your skills. It's almost a classroom, because everybody's working for free or next to free.
Yeah.
And, in those days they were called showcases. Now showcases, at least in New York, are very expensive. Upwards of, if someone says, "Hey, do a showcase, an equity showcase," it's $35,000 to $50,000 to get through, and that's without paying your actors a real salary. I mean, you're giving them some expense money. It's a very expensive proposition, and it didn't used to be this way. And schools were available, and they're not now, because everyone's afraid of liability insurance. Again, this is where other cities and other towns, and not picking a particular place, but if you're in Kentucky or Indiana or Colorado or someplace, and you have access, as you said, to a garage, go for it. But again, why are you doing it? Do you really believe in the play you're doing, or whatever the work is? Or are you doing it as a classroom for you to learn more? All of them those are valid reasons. But at some point, what's your goal? Is it, I'm doing this only because I want to get to Broadway? That's another problem. And for most of us, that's the dream, right? I'm putting on my show. Someone's going to see it, and they're going to want to take it to Broadway. I don't know if that's the right dream.
I'm thinking about as well. Now this is more about buildings, really, because I'm thinking about a space that has creative potential. It's I feel like if I don't have a show running in here, I should have something going on in here.
Right. The only problem, though, you said something.
Whether it is
something's the wrong word, and in my opinion, that what it comes down to is first what's and the same thing with people with money that could help you. If you can get them excited about your vision, whatever that is, and the vision can be a play, a musical, a cabaret, a one-person show, a podcast, whatever it is, if you can get them excited about that, and then you need a space, that becomes part of the budget they're going to help you with. But I find that people want to get excited about your vision, and the building comes second. We've kind of reversed that in America lately because we need to have a place to perform. So all of a sudden, all these theater companies have this exorbitant mortgage or rent, which means they have to keep begging their donors to give them more money to pay it. And the problem is then it's only the extra money that they have to put on the shows. They're paying their mortgage. And it's tricky. It's apple, which chicken or the egg. I don't have the answer to that. But we do need. I hate to sound like I'm kissing butt here. If there are any rich people listening to this, please call us. You want some exciting stuff? We have projects.
The Business of Theater, a working title, needs a sponsor.
Well, on top of that, the farm has 7 shows.
We will change a working theater to your name.
No, don't offer that. That's the ego thing. Do not offer that. This is not about their ego.
I know.
Please.
I know. I would not do that. No,
this is either Darnell the podcast. Do not make it whoever it is. It got to be named after you, Darnell.
I have been to theaters that have nameplates in the bathrooms.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a little bit much. The Radford commode.
Because they're all desperate for money.
I have 6 commodes. Commodes in a theater downtown. I don't know if you know this. And I go out of my way to go use those facilities whenever possible.
Okay.
Can you imagine? You bring your friends in and you're like, oh, that's Mr. Radford. He uses the restroom here. He put a lot of money into those.
Well, that's it.
Hands-free,
and that's what I guess.
Those motion detected sinks.
I think that would be a great legacy for you, Darnell. I think we should look for those stalls that we could put your name on, and it would go. The
only if you
Guinness
call
World Book. Who has their name on
crapper.
the most commodes in theater? Darnell Radford.
Only if you call it a crapper.
Oh, see, you're already making demands for the fact that you want your name on it. That's where the problem comes in, and yet,
you gotta have rider. You gotta have a rider in the agreement.
Well, the agreement.
You put some nonsense in there. I'll give you this money, but I want something absurd.
Well, isn't that what all the begging for money online is? It's like, well, for $100, we'll give you a T-shirt, but for $1,000, we'll let you sit in on the recording session. They all have to have these different levels.
Yeah, we'll write your name.
Yeah.
Well, write your name into the script.
Well, that's what nonprofits do.
I want my name written into the script.
Have you seen the last pages on Lincoln Center? It's half the program because these people have to have their names there.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And I'm not against that, but it's a shame that's... You instead of saying Lincoln Center Theater is the most exciting theater in New York and I so believe in blah, 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 I just want to donate, and give them, and they're putting a plaque on row F for me. It's like, okay, if that's what floats your boat.
So let me ask you this.
Darnell.
Let me ask you this: if the arts are so valuable, we know this. The arts are so valuable. Why are we struggling?
Because the arts are not so valuable in commercial terms, and that it takes money to foster culture. And yet it doesn't, by the way, because I do know even in high school we put on plays in people's backyards. It can be done without the money. However, that's not the same notoriety that we all want, and fewer people see it. But in America, it is, if you sell more Ritz crackers than you sell whatever other kind of crackers are out there, then you're considered more of a success. That happens with raising money. It happens with selling tickets. Hamilton. I mean, it's wonderful when something like Hamilton or a chorus line matches, when the quality of the show matches the success they're having financially. That's your goal. That's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
But along the way, there are people throwing money, expecting to become either famous or be able to tell their neighbors that they're part of a hit when they may not be. But nobody knows you're not a part of a hit unless they know something about theater, right? So that's the answer to me. It's
Yeah.
the arts, which can include entertainment. I mean, first of all, there's a show called The Play That Goes Wrong. I don't mind advertising it. I have never laughed so hard in my life. But if you're not a theater person,
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine it still
Yes.
works. But it is so geared to theater people, and it's done extremely well. They've made a lot of money. It's still playing off Broadway in New York. It's in the West End. It has played Broadway. Good for them, but it is nothing but silly. That's allowed because it's done well. It's
Yeah.
done well. I don't. It's a hard place to go.
So we know the value.
Yeah, go ahead.
We know the value. We know the value of the arts. But what about the people who say that the arts aren't for them?
Now let's go to yeah.
Like what about somebody who says, "I'm more of a sports fan." Like
That's a great point. It's a
going to a concert isn't something
right.
theatrical. How do we change
We
their
don't,
mindsets?
and we as most of us know, the reason we send students in high school, middle school, elementary school to theater is to give them a taste of it to see whether or not it speaks to them. Because once you're at a certain age, you kind of
Mm-hmm.
it's like old dog new tricks. It's like I can sit through this once, but I don't really want to do it. So you either hit them up early,
Yeah.
but the big statistic in New York, which still drives me crazy, and this has been true my entire life, it doesn't change. The tri-state area in New York is considered uh, New Jersey, Connecticut, and New York, including upstate New York, the Westchester. Only 22% of the tri-state area has ever seen a show anywhere in their entire life. That includes high school.
Hmm.
So we have a pool of people that is very small, and it doesn't increase no matter what we do to try to attract people in. Even with Lion King and Wicked, it still doesn't go up. So what's going on here?
Yeah.
Why is it only that percentage? And and people hire marketing people to try. A quick story: I was working on a wonderful show by David Henry Hwang called Golden Child, which had to do with a traditional Chinese story. It was a
Mm-hmm.
traditional Chinese family, and the producer said we need to bring in a Chinese audience. They'll appreciate this. And they started talking about marketing out in Queens, where there is a Chinese American immigrant community. And we went, but they've never gone to Broadway theater. Why are they going to come in? Just because you tell them there's a show about China? And of course, they didn't. They never showed up. It didn't matter what was advertised out there. It's about telling people they're welcome to come see a Broadway show or an off Broadway show or their school show, and if it speaks to them. So I don't. What do you disagree,
Yeah.
Darnell? Do you see otherwise?
I don't disagree.
So how do we then?
I don't disagree. Well, I was thinking, I've been giving my friend freshman year the credit for me having this love of theater because of his encouragement to get me to join the
Hmm.
drama club. But ultimately, I was in a play in fourth grade. I played a police
There you
officer.
go.
It was it was one of those like in the cafeteria shows, but it was one of those things. I was very nervous till I got on stage, and then I only had two lines, and after that, I wasn't. I don't think I immediately thought what was next, but it was from there that I joined the choir, and then I was in the choir for years, and then in high school got into the drama club, and ultimately senior year became head drum major of
There
the
you
band.
go.
It was you know without knowing how to
And
read
and
music.
and look
I
where
don't know
that
how that
took you.
happened, but
Look
it
where
did.
you are now. Right? No, it's seriously.
I know. Look at me now, ma.
It's
Ma,
it's the
look at
same
me
thing about
now.
learning an instrument. They force in whether it's in middle school, elementary school, they kind of force an instrument on kids, some of which hate it or are terrible at it. But the ones that latch
Hmm.
onto it, if you hadn't given them that instrument, they wouldn't know about it. If the parents don't give them lessons or can't afford lessons, if you don't play sports, it's the same thing with sports, by the way. I just spoke to someone today who started playing lacrosse when he was 6. Yeah, that would kind of say,
Mm.
oh, my parents are supporting me in this. I'm loving the game. I'm learning how to play it. That could turn you into a lacrosse player who likes that. And by the way, he's not
Yeah.
so much, and he also went to theater, but that's what you want parents and schools to do: introduce us to everything in the arts and culture as early as possible, and then we get to see what connects. You know, again, I had a discussion with a friend the other day about opera. I am not a big opera buff. I do go, I've seen it, but it's not my love. And they didn't said, is opera, people keep saying it's dying. How do we explain it's not dying, that it needs to be presented differently? That's an interesting
Mm.
idea. I don't know. But again, if you're not introduced to it young and you don't understand the music and you don't understand German, if it's in German, and if your parents don't understand it, is it going to connect with you? Um, and then how do we get more rich people to want to help
Yeah.
us? I'm sorry, I'm back to that. Rich people, please
Mm.
help us. And yeah, you can have a say over how the money's spent so that it matches what you like. I don't care. We all need you. And what's happening on Broadway right now is so many people are losing their shirts. Well, these are usually people who can afford to lose some money. They're losing their shirts that they may not come back for years. That's a problem.
Hmm.
Lots of things.
It does feel like
Yeah.
in the regional market there's a handful of people that we can thank for pretty much you know a good majority of the shows that
Yeah.
go up. I mean, when you go into the theater lobbies, you see the same names, and it's great that they exist, but there has to be more people
Yes.
than them.
Absolutely.
There has to be more.
And and
And if you're pulling the arts budgets, from schools,
mm,
then you're not really giving the young minds an opportunity to grow into this
right.
space either. You're not getting them while they're young. What are you encouraging them to do if you're cutting the funding so that you don't have the arts departments?
Well, and unfortunately, it
What are they
comes
going to
down
do?
to so much of, um, I guess, for lack of a better term, I'll say the middle class doesn't have the money to do more than to pay
Hmm.
for their gas and their food, and perhaps their two cars. And I don't want to feel bad that they don't have anything, but many people are in debt. And we have philanthropists of the
Yeah.
arts who truly come in and say, here's $10 million. So you only had to kiss one person's butt and not go after the rest of them. I wonder, I don't have the answer. Does the Guthrie or the Actors Theater of Louisville or Steppenwolf, are their successes based on one or two really rich people, or do they truly go out and people say, we love what you do and we want you to stay around? And my guts are it's a combination of both,
Hmm.
but it's also about how do we reduce our dependence on expensive sets and costumes, although I don't want to do that. I love it. And just pay people a living wage in the arts. It's we're still back down to that. How many times are we asking people to work for free to be in their art form and to help us put on a bad or good or great show? We don't know until we see it.
Yeah.
And there's no one.
And how do
How
you
do you
make an
do it?
impact
Right.
as an entity? How do you make an impact as an entity if you don't have brick and mortar?
Access to brick and mortar. You don't have to own it. You have to have
It,
access.
well, sometimes you gotta see a building over here and you say we can't have this building dark or we can't have this building closed, and then that sort of pushes people, but everybody can't
Right.
afford to have their own
Well,
building.
there's a lot of expense to buildings that people don't think about.
Yeah.
You have security, you have insurance, you have to have staff. The second someone walks in the building,
Hmm. A lot of stuff you can't put
right.
your name on.
And even
Hmm.
a lot of the foundation grants and the government grants are are specified to not include overhead. You can use them for a production, but you
Mm.
can't hire your staff. You can't pay for the bills. So these places get, oh, great, I've got $10,000. I can afford to put on a little show, but I can't open my theater because unless people work totally for free.
Yeah.
We've got problems. But we had the
Yeah.
pandemic to talk to each other about it, and we didn't do it. So hopefully
Hmm.
now maybe some of the younger theaters or the smaller theaters are going to say, let's have a think tank. And let's not just try to do everything the way it was done. Maybe we have to, but let's really think this through because we're going to survive and we're going to be stronger for it. And I'd love to meet these theaters. There are so few of them that are talking like this. Um, and they're still paying high salaries to their leaders who aren't
Yeah.
getting the theaters open. Um, you know, it's all around greed, and sometimes it's not greed. It's just we really didn't use our time wisely during the pandemic. But it's not over. We're not done yet. We still
Yeah.
have the chance. But how do you get Darnell? Pick any theater in Philadelphia. What's going to make me, as an audience member, go to one of those theaters over the other? I can only see so much at a time. What's going to make the difference? That's the question. We
Well,
go back to the original question: marketing. How do you get bodies in the seats? It's give me a reason to come to your place
yeah.
versus the other place. You have any thoughts?
Well, what I've been thinking about is, I've been thinking, we are thinking that the show will be a draw, but what about the entity
Mm-hmm.
itself? It. What is the mission of the company? Who are the people involved? Why are they involved? Like, we need to tell the organization's story as well, because if you are sitting in the middle of, well, not in the middle, if you're sitting in South Philly in this area and you need to ask this community why they should support you. I mean, you need to encourage this
That's
community to
right.
support you. You have to tell them why you exist in South
Mm-hmm.
Philly, and why you're here and not, next to one of the other theaters
Right.
downtown. So I think it is that internal story is just as important too. And I think, you know, I don't know that I heard a lot about the organizational stories during this
Not at all.
pandemic. I think we saw a lot of people trying to put shows up, which was great, but and that's supposed to be the draw, but in general you're supposed to tell us why you need to continue to survive, why you need to continue to exist. Yeah, and it's hard to do if you are an organization that doesn't have brick and
Yeah.
mortar.
Yeah. Point
You know,
taken. Point taken.
why? Because you could be anywhere. So you do have to tell us that. So we can't just say we're happy to do the world premiere of XYZ. But I'm like, I'm sorry, who are you again? Why
The
do you
thing though,
matter? Because you're doing the
right, but
world
the thing you
premiere.
brought up that is valid, but is also problematic, is that most people not in the
Mm,
theater world, will go to a show because that show is something they were told they need to see. So it is about, which is of course what
mm,
Broadway is that those theaters are just 41 Broadway theaters. They keep changing what shows are in them. And you don't go to the Richard Rodgers Theater, you go to Hamilton. You're right, you don't make that choice.
yeah.
That's Broadway. Nonprofits are different. You can get an allegiance, which is why subscriptions help. Um, but again, the proof in the pudding is the last three shows you did bored me to death or weren't so special. Now I don't care if you're a nice guy working at that theater. I'm still not going to come. So it's a combination.
Mm,
But I think both of them
yeah.
work. Both of them make a difference. There are nonprofits here in New York I would go to if the staff and not just the leadership, if the people working there were known to me. If they invited me in and said, when you get here, come a half hour early. We have coffee. We're going to be out in the lobby. We're going to just talk to people and say, hey, I'm on the staff here.
Mm,
That kind of personal touch to feel like you're part of the community is so powerful. At the same
mm-hmm.
point, if you have a rotten show, you're still not going to get me back. Right? I mean, there's both of those things. So it's hard. But
True.
again, in order to start doing it the correct way, we all need money. Not a lot necessarily, but we need it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a shame. People's careers, how do we get started? Someone's got to believe in you. Right? I'm so
Yes.
fortunate at the farm where we're commissioning plays and musicals. There are people who said, Mitch, your idea is interesting to me, and I'm willing to give you some money up front to see what happens on the back end, that I might make some money off of this. But at least
Mm,
the idea, and more importantly, they were trusting me. And I understand that. These are people who said, I trust you're not going to steal my money or misuse it. So that's the personal touch you're talking about. You need
yeah.
both. Right? And of course, the pandemic doesn't help anybody. And we're still in it. It's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing.
We're reserving this whole row of seats for you so we can put a spotlight on you and say, without your generous contribution, none of this would be possible. None of it. Can everybody standing ovation here for Mr. and Mrs. Moneybags? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all your work. You're so generous.
You're
So
making a joke, but
generous.
I've worked for two theater companies that did that. It's embarrassing. It was
Yes.
embarrassing for the people
Yes.
who gave the money
Mm-hmm.
too.
Yeah,
So
I mean, we thank.
yeah, of
I
course you
mean,
thank
yes,
people.
we do thank the people who made it possible. Yes, but like to fall all
Yeah,
over them, you know, it's it is an interest. It's a
it
delicate
is.
balance. Yes, but I mean, the only other way to fix this is to get someone in that federal office who cares about the culture of this
You
country.
got it.
So that money
And
is
they're
sustained.
very much restricted. The
And yeah, and then
foundation
all the
grants the same
other
thing.
smaller offices of
Yeah,
influence as well.
yeah. But of course,
Mm-hmm.
when their priorities are just lower my taxes, the first place they're going to look is for places that don't have a bunch of people protesting about. And theater people are busy putting on
Yeah,
shows, not
yeah,
protesting. All right, during the pandemic, we had a little bit of protest, but we didn't have anything else to do. So now that they've paid millions of dollars to certain producers to reopen their show and their shows are closing, that means the same people who were out of work before are going to be out of work again. And we're right back to where we were. That depressing note, let's just say, though, it is terribly exciting still to be in a show and to be in the audience of a show.
Yes.
My goodness, when you see that, I'm being more and more cautious because of COVID, another surge starting to happen. But hopefully, beyond that, and the Tony Awards, which we'll probably talk about again in a couple of, next week or two, we'll see how that survives.
Yeah, there's time.
There is.
And if this wasn't depressing, if this wasn't too depressing for you, and you want to know how we still manage to exist in this world, go see a show.
Really.
Go see the energy on that stage. Go see the lights and the sound, and experience the sound, experience the set design, experience the ensemble. All the work that they put into entertaining you live, and see why this matters, because it matters. It matters. It matters. And this is the one thing, this is the key thing we have to remind everyone, even through all of this. Telling these stories, making sense of the world the way that we do, is why all of this matters. And with that, I think we can end today's episode.
Good, positive thought. All right. And everybody buy a ticket.
So go see a show. Just pick any one.
Or
buy 2 tickets. Right. Why? Because theater's more
with
fun.
With a friend.
Theater's more fun with a +1. Oh. Yes. Theater is more fun with a +1. This is The Business of Theater, a working title. I am Darnell Radford.
What do you want me to do?
He likes to make us wait.
What else am I supposed to do?
Pregnant pause.
What pregnant pause?
Okay, let's do... You're supposed to immediately say your name at the end so we can sign off. Let's take 2, okay?
I did.
So this has been The Business of Theater, a working title. I'm Darnell Radford. Yes. And we'll see you in the theater with your +1. Because theater is more fun with a +1.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next time for another episode of The Business of Theater, a working title, with Darnell Radford and Mitch Weiss. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Share the podcast with a friend, colleague, or give us some social media love. This podcast is an Emory production. Visit us online at em3ry.com/TBOT. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at em3ryotm.